Welcome to the RW and JB Sports Podcast and ATX with your co-hosts Justin Ballou and Reagan Williams as always. Today we have our first guest speaker. His name is
Sigurd Schmidt.
Yes, and we have got your full Super Bowl 54 preview between the 49ers and Kansas City Chiefs. So let's kick it off by talking about this Chiefs offense. This is one of the most exciting offenses to watch I think I've ever seen other than the Baltimore Ravens this season. The combination of Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce is really unstoppable for all teams. Mahomes has been outstanding in the playoffs, especially with his legs. Now, we haven't seen his legs really in effect in the whole season except for in the playoffs. Now he's leading the team in rushing yards, which is quite surprising. And then throw in his throwing ability, and this is a really hard offense to stop. Now, in the divisional round against the Houston Texans, he put up 321 yards, and then in the conference championship, he put up 294. And just lit up the teams that he played. This offense can score so many points, but now they're going to have to go against a hard defense. We'll see how it turns out.
Yeah, with the Chiefs, I mean, alone with Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, just those two are unstoppable. But whenever you pair those two with just the raw talent of Patrick Mahomes and couple those with a great offensive-minded coach in Andy Reid, it's crazy to see how good they are and how unstoppable they've been. Now, the problem I see with the 49ers defense is they're going to have to cover a lot of guys for the Chiefs, and I just think there's a lot more offensive-heavy players on the Chiefs that are going to overpower the defense of the 49ers.
I think if I had to use two words to describe this Chiefs offense, it would be explosive and speed, because you have Robinson, you have Hardman, you have
Hill,
Sammy Watkins, and then Tyreek Hill. Mm-hmm. That's four speedy receivers, and I don't know if the 49ers have enough speed to cover them. Now, but with the 49ers defense, what I think that they like to do is they like to rush forward because they can generate enough pressure with those 5 first-round picks up front that they can end up dropping 7 in coverage, which is going to be really effective against the Chiefs because they're going to have 4 receivers on 7 DBs and linebackers, and then what do you do? Who do you throw to? That's where they're going to have to use that speed to their advantage and get some deep balls to Tyreek Hill, hopefully open. I would say the one worry that I have about this Chiefs offense is what we saw last week. They have trouble closing out games whenever they have to run the ball because they're so pass-heavy. They don't really have a running game. Now, Patrick Mahomes has led them in rushing, showing that Damian Williams hasn't even been necessary other than his pass-catching ability out of the backfield. So if it comes down and say the Chiefs are up by like 7 at the end of the game and have to run the ball, they'll probably have to punt because this rush game is not as good as their pass game, and they're totally pass-heavy. Mahomes has been throwing like 40 to 50 passes a game, and Damian Williams has only been rushing about 10 times a game. So that's the one worry I have is how this team can close out the Super Bowl if they're winning at the very end. But like you said earlier, Reagan, with how offensive-minded Andy Reid is, I think he would recognize the fact that they're not able to run the ball, and he'll resort to more short throws and try to close out the game.
Yeah, that was exactly what I was thinking with like throwing it short, maybe throwing a couple like screens. I think they'll resort to that a lot at the end of the game, depending on if they're up or not.
If it comes down to a field goal, Harrison Butker has been clutch this year, making 34 out of 38 field goals for an 89.5 percentage rate.
So we talked about the Chiefs offense, now let's talk about their defense. Now I have to give credit to Steve Spagnuolo because he's done an awesome job of improving this defense throughout the playoffs. Now Chris Jones missed the divisional round against the Texans, but he was back last week and boy did he give them a huge boost. The combination of him, Frank Clark, and Dee Ford has been really good all season, especially in pass rushing. Now, they're going to have to continue this success and stop the run against the 49ers like they did last week. They held Derrick Henry to 69 yards, which I don't think any of us saw coming, given how good he was throughout the last 2 games of the playoffs. They also held Carlos Hyde to 44 yards. Now, again, the Texans are really pass-heavy in an offense, but still, that's a good stat, only letting Hyde get 44 yards on them. Now, the secondary, like you addressed earlier with the Honey Badger, is quite good. It's underrated, I think. I think Charvarius Ward has had a really good season. He kind of came out of nowhere in the playoffs and has really improved, I think. Kendall Fuller struggled a little bit, so I expect if the 49ers throw the ball to target him. And Bashaud Breeland's also been really, really solid in the secondary for them this season.
And that's a good combination, but they have to rely heavily on stopping the run. And if they don't, it's going to be a very long game.
Now, during the season, they had some problems with their defense. Like the beginning of the season, they were giving up tons of yards. I think they were giving up somewhere close to like 19 to 20-something points per game. It was bad. But like you said, that defensive coordinator really saw what needed to be changed, and he implemented a way better strategy that has driven them to the Super Bowl. And like you said, Tyrann Mathieu has been playing out of his mind. And I think this defense coupled with the offense, I think there's no way the 49ers win this, I think.
The struggles that they had throughout the season was primarily in run defense,
Yeah.
but that's what I mean. Spagnuolo did a great job of stacking the box or whatever he really did, changing that defensive scheme to make it to where Henry and Hyde basically ran into a brick wall every time they had the ball. So we talked about the Chiefs. Now let's talk about their opponent, the 49ers. Let's start with their offense. So whenever you think about this offense, the word that comes to mind is run-based, run-heavy. They have a three-headed monster in the backfield, Matt Breida, Raheem Mostert, Tevin Coleman. It's really pick your poison with this run game. One game it could be Tevin Coleman like it was against the Vikings. He put up 105 yards and 2 TDs, and then Mostert against the Packers putting up 220 yards and 4 TDs against the Packers. I mean, it's not that the running backs on this team are good. Don't get me wrong, they are, but it's really the scheming of Kyle Shanahan. It's deception, it's misdirection. They use Kyle Juszczyk as a decoy half the time. They'll move the formation right, and then it comes back to the left, and the defense just does not have time to adjust against this run game. Quarterback Jimmy G hasn't really had to do much. He only threw 8 passes against the Packers for 77 yards, and only threw 19 passes against the Vikings in the divisional round. This offense is so run-based, and if they have to throw the ball, they can. I mean, Kittle has been a beast all season long. I think him and Travis Kelce, the two best tight ends in the league now, are going head-to-head in the Super Bowl. And then they have Emmanuel Sanders. He was a huge addition for them. And then at the start of the season, at our very first NFL podcast, I was talking about how stacked this receiving core is, just with speed all around. Deebo Samuel, as I predicted, has had a breakout season. He's really given them that Tyreek Hill or that McCole Hardman to their George Kittle that the Chiefs kind of have with Hill and Kelce. This is a really good duo to watch for if they have to throw the ball, but if not, they'll just run it right at you all game long. Whenever they do throw the ball, it's a lot of play action and deception, like I said earlier. This offense is just really hard to stop, as I predicted at the beginning of the season. Speed, elite speed, and deception is what they use to their advantage on the 49ers offense.
Yeah, that run game is going to be a really key factor for the 49ers because I know their receiving core is good, but Jimmy G's just not good.
What?
Honestly, he's not.
27 for 13.
I know, but still, he's not just a quarterback you would expect to be leading this team to the Super Bowl.
He doesn't throw much, but when he throws good, he does good. What amazes me about the 49ers run game is they have a running back that was cut by 6 teams, and now he's a starting running back in the Super Bowl who just had 220 yards and 4 touchdowns against the Packers.
But this is what I'm saying, though. Their running back doesn't have to be good because they use this deception to their advantage. They'll move the formation one way, it'll come back the other way. The defense, they keep the defense off guards. They never know what's coming at them. They know they're going to run the ball, and the 49ers can still run the ball, and that's why it's so impressive to watch this offense.
The 49ers have a solid wide receiver core in Deebo and Sanders. And with that, they can go with the passing, but if the passing doesn't work, they can go with the run. Because this year they succeeded against every team with run or the pass.
This is why I disagree with what Reagan said about Jimmy G not being able to throw the ball, because they're not gonna be a shotgun-based team like the Chiefs are. They're not gonna show you that they're gonna throw the ball and then throw it over your head. They're gonna fake the run because as soon as Jimmy G puts that ball into Mostert or Tevin Coleman's chest, the defense is gonna come up and then that's gonna leave Sanders open, Kittle open, and the rest of these speedy wide receivers open. This is what they do. They trick you. They keep you off guards, and they have it where you never know what's coming.
While the Chiefs have one of the most highly accurate kickers in the league, the 49ers have a kicker that's been good the past few years, but this year he's made 23 out of 31 field goals, which is a 74.2 percentage rate, which means the Chiefs win in this aspect.
So we talked about the 49ers offense and their kicker. Now let's talk about their defense, which is the strength of this team. Now, whenever you think of the 49ers defense, the thing that comes to mind is Nick Bosa along with those other 4 first-round picks up front. This defense is absolutely stacked up front. Bosa, Armstead, Buckner, D. Ford, and then Solomon Thomas, too, as a reserve. This D-line can produce pressure with 4 people, like we said earlier, meaning that they can drop 7 into coverage. And then at linebacker, Fred Warner and Quan Alexander have both had breakout seasons, which I don't really think anybody saw coming. The secondary is overperforming, but that's due in large part to the fact that they can generate pressure with 4 people up front, so they can drop 7 people into coverage. Richard Sherman, Emmanuel Mosley has stepped in nicely to the role. He stepped in for an injured player earlier in the season, has done a nice job. Alexander, just Jaquiski Tart has had a really good last few games. And the one struggle in the secondary, I will say, is Jimmy Ward. So I don't expect him to be anywhere near Tyreek Hill because Tyreek Hill will burn him, and then they'll get a lot of explosive plays out of that. So if I'm the Chiefs, that's the matchup I'm looking for. Whoever Jimmy Ward is guarding, I'm throwing at the whole game long. The thing to watch in this game is how the Chiefs' offensive line is able to hold up in pass protection against this 49ers defensive line, because just alone Bosa and D Ford can produce pressure by themselves, and then throw in Armstead and Buckner, and Patrick Mahomes may have a nightmare of a night if that offensive line struggles to give him time to throw the ball.
Yeah, the 49ers' biggest aspect is their defense, and that defense is just stacked with front seven guys. And when you have the pressure of the 49ers, it's going to cause mistakes, and those mistakes cause turnovers, and those turnovers lead to points. And just, I know it's a big challenge for Mahomes and the Chiefs, but that talent of the offense for the Chiefs is just, I think it's going to be too much for the 49ers defense.
So you mentioned turnovers, which is interesting because the Chiefs have one of the lowest turnover rates of any team on offense, and then the 49ers are number one in turnovers. So that's an example of something that has to give in this game, which a lot of other things, the 49ers defense is first in a lot of statistical categories, where the Chiefs offense with Mahomes, now those stats will be a little staggered because of Mahomes' injuries early in the year, but when they're at full strength, their offense is probably one of the best in the league. Going against that really good 49ers defense, it's going to be exciting to watch.
Richard Sherman's been known to be one of the best corners in the league, but his speed's always been a big factor against fast wide receivers. And Tyreek Hill and McCole Hardman are going to be a very hard challenge for Sherman to maintain.
Yeah, like you said, the 49ers secondary is not the fastest, and that's another reason why that defensive line is going to have to generate a lot of pressure, which I expect they will. Which leads us into our prediction portion of the show. So, Sigurd, who do you have winning and why?
I have the 49ers winning this 38-28 due to the 49ers having an elite offense such as the Chiefs, but their defense being just too much for the Chiefs to handle.
Now, Reagan, who do you got?
I have the Chiefs winning 35-17. I mean, I understand that the defense of the 49ers is superior to that of the Chiefs, but just Patrick Mahomes, just his raw talent and his ability to just escape the pocket and evade tacklers, and his just ability to sling it as far as he can, I don't know. I just think it's too much for the 49ers to overcome, really.
For me, I think this game comes down to two things. First of all is that I think the 49ers have been more battle-tested the last couple games because the Titans, while they were an underdog story, were nowhere near as good talent-wise as the Ravens would have been. Had the Chiefs beaten the Ravens, I probably would have been picking them in this game. But the fact that the 49ers had to go through the Packers, who a lot of people think were a fluke, but they had a great season. And then the Vikings, I think, were a really tough test for them too, when they handled them easily. That, and then coupled with the fact that on both sides of the ball, I'd say the 49ers defense doesn't have the upper hand against the Chiefs offense by a slight margin, but I would say the 49ers offense has a large hand on the Chiefs defense, and I think that they're going to be able to generate more points. I got 49ers winning 31-27 in this game. That's going to conclude our Super Bowl preview podcast. We thank y'all for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.